4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hello, I nearly said good evening then, but it's far from it. Hello, welcome along to another review of a loss. Honestly, last week it was like getting a blowjob off my wife because it was my birthday. But then afterwards thinking, oh God, I've got another 12 months to wait for the next one. That's how it felt. Clibbo, you were very angry at the weekend. How are you feeling now?
Can I say philosophical?
Well, you can. I would challenge you to spell it. Explain.
No, I'm too angry.
I thought you'd be more angry than that, to be honest with you.
I inwardly I am, but I've had to. I think, like a lot of people, I've heard certain people talking on other platforms about how it's taken over their sort of day, and they become pissed off with their kids and things like that. Fortunately, it's just me and the dog, but.
Don't keep that dog. It's a big one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'd lose. It's and I've had to sort of, because it's just took over my everyday thoughts, and it's just made me angry, pissed off, make bad judgments. So I've had to sort of really sit down, think about it, and come to a realization, I think.
I mean, I'm going to go right back to the last time we got relegated to League One. That I just sat there and I just thought, because it's a bit like this season, because if it happens, we're expecting it to happen now. It's coming. It isn't like a sort of a last day sort of thing. And I just get to the point, maybe it's because I'm old. I'm like, I would have been retirement age this year if the government hadn't pissed about and put it all back. But, and I'm just thinking, well, life goes on. And, do I want to be in a position where my team is relegated to League One but still around? Or do I want to be in a position where I don't have a football team anymore?
I don't think that's a true dichotomy, to be honest with you, Chris. I think if we go down, there's a possibility that both are going to happen.
No, I accept that, but I'm just thinking of the two worst things that could happen. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. I'm going to go outside. Hopefully the sun might be shining. I'm not going to be dodging bombs or drones or anything like that. I've got running water. I'll be able to have a shower when I get up. I know that might surprise a lot of you, but I'll be able to have a shower. It's first world problems in a way, isn't it, really?
It is, but at the end of the day, we live where we live, and we're passionate about the things we're passionate about. I don't sort of, these are the kind of things that stop us thinking depressive thoughts. They're the things that get us talking in pubs and and social places, and in arguments with your partner, and why do you like bloody football so much? It's just a load of footballers kicking a ball, that kind of thing. But that's what it is. That's what football is. And I think the thing the thing is, the difference between this time and last time when we went down is I felt overwhelmed by sadness. I was hurt, and it took me a long time to get over that. This time round, I'm just furious. I'm furious.
I think last time we went down, it wasn't following the success that we've just had. I mean, should we hear should we hear what John Rudkin's had to say?
Oh, yeah, if you must.
We're doomed. We're doomed. We're doomed.
Yeah, I was thinking that's a strange one because I don't think he'll be coming out and saying anything.
No, sorry, mate, I couldn't. It is how I feel. I mean, this is almost cathartic for me, and being able to talk about it. Otherwise, I'd probably feel a lot worse, if you like. And I always look at the difference between, obviously, when we do the watch along, as you know, you've been on it. We have the post match section. As soon as the final whistle goes, the post-match reaction, and it's called that for a reason. We do look for a reaction, and this last time there was me and Jim on it, and we just both sat there. And like, you've got an American and you've got me. Neither of us are sort of usually short of things to say, but we both sat there going, "Yeah, know what to say."
I must admit, I mean. I know you invited me on. I just couldn't because I knew.
Yeah.
I know how I am when I'm angry. I'm not really the best person to be around, and I can say some shitty things. So I took the dog out for a walk, put the headphones on, and listened to you, and I couldn't help but get the feeling that you just wanted the show just to be over. To be honest with you.
Yes, I think. I think it's just with like that. I can say I had no words, and like for me as a host to sit there and go, I don't know what to say. I've just got to that point, and I think, and again we are reactionary, and there's a huge difference between what I say on a post match to what I say on the review because I've had time to sit down and could gather my thoughts and what have you. I think we've just been so bad now for the last few seasons, and maybe we saw. Well, I thought we might be seeing the green shoots of a little bit of a revival, and then come along, it just sort of kicks you in the bollocks, doesn't it? But I'm going to have to do this. I'm sorry, Clibbo. I mean, it's interesting that the highlights list reel is 1 minute 58 seconds. That's how long the club have put this out for, and I think that's probably 1 minute 50 seconds longer than it needs to be. But here we go. Just have a look at this debacle.
Would have been in a pressurised situation or a more pressurised situation.
A nice half turn between the lines by Jordan James, now bearing down on the edge of the penalty area. Tries it long from range. Oh, it's brilliant from Jordan James. Curls it into the bottom corner. Leicester have liftoff.
Wow. What a strike from Jordan James.
Double figures for the season for Jordan James. And he's brought up the mark with a piece of brilliance. 0 here at the King Power though, just as we head towards half-time. It is Leicester City 1, Queen's Park Rangers 0. Courtesy of a exceptional Jordan James goal, but a ball over the top, and QPR maybe with a chance to level things up, and they've taken it. It's Vale with the finish.
Ben Nelson's just caught nap and he doesn't see the run. Vale, or is he leaving it for the keeper to come out? Keeper doesn't get there quick enough.
The throw in, skip with the interception. Jordan James' header has gone backwards, and here is Kone. And QPR surging forward. Vale, the goal scorer. Oh, it's an own goal. Ben Nelson in front of Jakub Stelacic has turned it into his own net. It looked like it was going to be a straightforward claim for the Leicester City goalkeeper. It's going to be Vale to take the corner kick. It's swung into the 6-yard box and planted beyond Jakub Stelacic. Queen's Park Rangers increased their lead. And it's Ronnie Edwards with the header, virtually unchallenged from 6 yards, to make it Leicester City 1, QPR 3.
I mean, it's just... Again, I find himself lost for words again. We can't keep relying on wonder strikes, can we?
No, and the thing is, one of the things that I did, because I watched up until the second goal before I turned it off before my computer went through the window. Is that when Jordan James was running at them, they backed off him, and he produced that wonderful strike. That you can't take that away from him.
Yeah.
But after that, they never did, or rarely did, back off him. And they very quickly adapted to what they needed to do. And what we've got players that they've played at a high level. They're not used to playing in what you would call, it's a crap league. Come on. It's not great football. There's no really good teams in that division. And there's a certain brand of football you need. One to get out of the division and one to stay in the division. And we haven't got players that can do that. If you look at QPR's first goal, they needed to get a goal. They haven't scored in Christ knows how many games. They're staring down the barrel. One win might keep them up. Desperate times. What they do, launch a 60-yard ball straight in the net. That's how you get out of this. We can't. This passing and pissing around with this system, it's not working. It's not worked all season, and now I think Rowett has to take very, very decisive decisions, very quickly as well. Because the only way I can see us getting out of this is that we don't get any more points deductions, and you have to get 9 points at the next 3 games, or forget it.
Well, we'll come on to what games are coming up and if that can happen. I'm just looking at the starting lineup there, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players. I think still Archie played in the Premier League. 7 of those 11 have been Premier League players or played in the Premier League, and yet they produce a performance like that.
I mean, what I will say is, after the Premier League season, I was quite a fan of Jakob, because I thought, given the situation that he was put in, I thought he commanded his area quite well. He was good at shot stopping. I thought after Mads had come back too early and he was just rubbish, I thought he commanded the area, and I thought that when he came in, I thought that the defence looked a little bit more comfortable with him there. So we know he's playing way, way, way below his levels, and I don't know really what's happened, but they're all doing it.
Well, I mean, we did the show on Friday lunchtime with Kate, and she'd been away for like a month, and we usually do the big show, and you were there indeed. And she came back. She said, if Berkovic is fit, I'd have him in. And I said, well, Stolarczyk's been really good for the last few games, and he probably deserves it. And she said, yeah, but there's something about him. I'm still not convinced. I tell you what, if she's got the lottery numbers, I'm going to ring her up and get them, because she nailed it right on. And I've got to say, and I mean, everybody's comments in the chat are basically feeling the same way as us. Look, QPR, I looked at it, and I'm not disrespecting QPR, but they probably came into this game exactly the same as we did, thinking this is one we could win. Because if we were playing, say, Coventry yesterday, or if we were playing Middlesbrough, well, we got a draw with them. But if we're playing one of the top 4 or 5 teams, but you'd look at QPR and go, possibly with the form that they were going in, winning 1 in 5, and I think Richard may be a QPR fan there. And they only won 1 in 5 or 6 games, and they haven't scored a goal for 4 games. We're looking at that and thinking. Well, I was thinking, and I say no disrespect to QPR, this is one we could or should get something out of, and then they go and put in a performance like that. I mean, I think Rowett actually summed it up, and he said it was like Christmas Day for QPR.
I think if you go back a show or two, I did actually call this and say this will be a much tougher game than the Bristol game because of the reasons and the positions. And I'm not happy about that, but that's just the reality. And, if you look over the past few seasons, QPR they've got form doing this. They've escaped a few times. They know how to do this. Now, have they got the quality to push on? No, of course they've not. But if you earn your living at the bottom of a league, you get used to how to dig deep.
Yes.
Our players don't have that. And as soon as that first goal went in that they scored, and I saw how simple it was for them, Route 1 football, I knew, my instinct told me, I knew that we weren't going to win this game. And I thought, if we can get a draw out of it, it's a point, but it's disgusting.
Take nothing away from QPR. The better team won, and they were a lot better than us. My optimism was fueled by the fact that, yes, we had just come off a win, and you would hope that there would be some confidence there. Maybe there was for about 10 minutes, and then, after we scored, it kind of evaporated. But also, obviously, they got a lot of injuries. And like Richard said there, we never really tested it. I don't know if their keeper is dodgy or not. I don't know them well enough to say that. But, they learned from the mistakes. Like you say, they backed off Jordan James with the first goal, and they never did it again. Look, I've got a couple of people here. This was the reactions to the loss from Steve and Kate, who were at the match.
Hello, Leicester till I die. Right, well, I've left early. Not too early, sort of 4 or 5 minutes before the end of the game. Dog shit. Again, scored a goal, stepped back, offered nothing in that second half, and gave them 3 easy goals. Look, second bottom now, with Blackburn picking up a result, or they're winning at the moment, so it might carry on the way it is, and West Brom winning as well. Just not good enough. Simple as that, and that we're falling further and further into League One by the looks of it. But we're back the lads. But I'll tell you what, those protesters distracting the players like they did, can't believe it. Anyway, on to the next game against Watford. We perform a little bit better away from home, so we might pick up some points, but I can't see it. Anyway, cheers guys.
We'll come on to his back the lads comment in a second, but I just want to first of all just show what Kate thought post-match.
Hello. Well, business as usual has returned. I thought we started off really well. I actually don't know how we've lost that game having started so well. We looked so comfortable. The goal was great. It was really well taken by JJ, and for the first time in quite a long time I didn't feel nervous or edgy about us against the opposition. I thought we were so comfortable. QPR were really poor. And then, for whatever reason, after we scored, we stopped and we sat back and we let them come on to us and let them have a go. And, they were trying their luck, and then the ball over the top was our undoing. And this Leicester side are so brittle that if they concede one goal, the odds on it they're going to concede a couple more. And the frustration from the fans as well, that they continually play around the back like we were 3-1 up, not 3-1 down. There was no urgency, and there was silly little hospital passes going on. Possession does not win you football matches, and when these modern players will learn that, I don't know. But really, really disappointing. I'm not even going to give a man of the match because I don't think there is one. Thought Mavadini did okay. But outside of that, I don't really remember anybody really having any decent game. JJ's clearly not quite fit yet. He ran out of steam a bit. And the back four, why we continually pass around the back to retain possession against 4 players that don't want the football because they can't play with the ball, is absolutely insanity. and we were playing like we were 3-1 up, not 3-1 down, and it's just an absolute calamity. I don't know what's happened. We've gone brain dead. And seeing that Blackburn won, I'm sniffing that the other teams are fighting in this division, and we're not fighting. We're panicking and we're complacent. Really dejected after that. To concede 7 goals across the 2 fixtures to that team, you've got to have a long hard look at yourself in the mirror. Absolutely shocking. 3 out of 10 I'm giving that one.
That, believe you me, for Kate, that's angry. But look,
I think she's generous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember what I gave. It was more than me. We'll come on to that later. And you're probably in the minuses, to be honest with you. I'm going to pick Steve's point up with back the lads, but at 1-0 up, we were out the bottom 3. And now I watched midweek. I actually did a watch along for. We did. It was a double watch along. It wasn't sort of like we do with the full commentary and what have you. But I was watching Oxford against Blackburn, and Wayne was watching West Brom versus Southampton. Now, West Brom were lucky. They were the unlucky, I should say. Southampton were lucky. They scored in the 94th minute, whatever it was. But that was West Brom's game to lose. And I suppose being a team where they are, that's what ended up happening. Now, when I watched the Oxford-Blackburn game, Blackburn were absolutely shite. But I'll tell you what, Oxford were everything we're not. They fought. They were fighting for the ball. I was really impressed with Oxford. They were so on top. Blackburn were like us. If I'm if that describes it well enough. And I'm thinking, yeah, Oxford ain't going to go down if they carry on playing like that.
No, and it was only a matter of weeks ago that we all dismissed them out of hand. We all said, well, it's one of 3 or 4 teams to go with Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday. But again, Oxford have got form.
Yeah.
They're perennial strugglers. They know what it takes, whether they produce it or not, but they know what it takes to get out of the sticky situations that they find themselves in. And if they stay up, it will be the same next season and the season after, and then eventually they might go down. But at least what you've got there are players that are probably on 5 to 10 grand a week that are happy to earn that and put a shift in. The quality might not be there, but when you look at what our players, pretty much every one of those players could probably retire tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oxford United's players will probably have to work till they're 60, coaching or being a PE teacher or whatever. Yeah, there's a big difference in that mentality.
Yes, yeah. I want to go through the talking points now because this is something we do now on the show, because obviously people have watched the show and what have you. So I'm not going to go too much into the match, but I want to go to some talking points. And I'll start there, and I put this up on social media when I was advertising this show, and this is and I'm not deboning anybody that goes and watches it. I think, and Wayne went to watch it yesterday, the weekend. I got a ticket. Wayne went to watch it for us, and I'm thinking at least I'm sat in a nice warm. Although he probably was as well because he was in hospitality. But, those that go along and those that go along to the away matches, I've got to say, deepest respect for them. But this is what I was asking myself. People pay to watch this shite. If Leicester City was a TV programme, we wouldn't be watching it. We'd have turned over.
Well, I did.
Well, yeah, indeed. Indeed. But do you know what I mean? And okay, we're not paying as in buying a ticket, although we pay for all this stuff and I pay to be able to watch the matches. But that's what hurts me, is that this is people, like you've just said, the players on the pitch there, they could retire tomorrow. 90 odd grand a week, 80 grand a week. I never made that in 2 or 3 years when I was, working in sales. And, if I didn't do well, I could be, I was sometimes at the point of losing my job. But these players are playing shit, but they're still being picked week in, week out. That's, I think, maybe what the club and the fans, and I'm not going to blame, obviously, Rowett's come into a difficult situation. He still has to take a little bit of the blame, but they've got to realise we're paying to watch them play football. And like I say, you might as well go and pick up some dog poo out of Victoria Park, put it in the centre circle, and we can sit and watch that for 90 odd minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, what we've been doing over the last, over the sort of latter half of the season, has been, discussing what players should be playing. Should Thomas be playing? Should Jakob be playing, etc. I don't really now at this point think it matters who plays. I genuinely don't. I think you could put kids in there. I think there is a...
Could they?
No, there's a mentality problem at the club. We've known that for a long time.
Yeah.
This system is not working. And I know you're going to get people out there going, oh, it's nothing to do with this. Listen, it's opinions. But in my opinion, that system does not suit what players go on that pitch. They don't have the right attitude to play it. There's something fundamentally wrong. And I genuinely think, having heard what Rowett said afterwards, it was quite cryptic. I think we have to see something change. We can have this debate whether Hamza should play right back or whether Ricardo plays right back. I don't think it matters. I genuinely don't think it matters. I think, for me, I would like to see something very different. And I'd definitely like to see the three at the back.
Yeah.
Because at this point, desperate times, desperate measures. If you're going to put that same team out there, we don't know. They might turn up, they might not. But in my opinion, they should be working on something different this week, because it's clearly not working. And the sort of takeaway that I got from that interview, which I'm sure you're going to play in a moment, was that he can't trust some of these players.
Yeah.
Now, whether that means he'll just change the personnel, which I don't think is going to make a blind bit of difference, or whether he changes systems. And I believe that we do have the players to play to play the three.
These are professional footballers.
Yes.
And we talk about utility players, but a player should be able to play football in one or two or three positions. Let's be honest with you.
The youth teams, that's what they promote now.
Yeah. And
they can play all different positions within their sort of sector.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the bench for the trade, the management side of the bench, not the playing side of the bench. And I'm looking at, all right, you've got Gary Rowett, you've got Callum Davidson, and then not further along, you've got Andy King, who's part of this shit terms, and he would probably accept that. And then you've got Adam Sadler sat there, and you're thinking, for fuck's sake, the future of this club is in Sadler's. He's got a quarter of the hands on this trading thing. You're thinking, like, he's been so shite before, and yet we've brought him back into the club. And I'm all right for saying, let's get people back in, and sometimes a second chance, but not when you've been sacked for being so fucking awful. Bring them back in.
It does beg a belief, doesn't it? I mean,
it does. Totally does.
It stinks of, well, he's put his hand in the ring, so I'll help you out, because nobody else will. And I mean, listen, the guy's probably a really nice guy, and he might do well somewhere else. Yeah. But once you've been part of that dirty shit that's gone on,
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just, you need to just walk away from it and start somewhere else. That's why I think Andy King would be better off leaving the club, going and embarking on his managerial career somewhere else. Because I don't think it's going to do him any good being around this crap.
No. You're going to get tarred with the brush. I
Yeah,
mean,
of course.
look, you know me. I have been going mad for absolutely ages about this 4-2-3-1. You know, it all right. It kind of worked for Enzo. We got away with it that season because it did turn bad for a while.
He played it different to us, though. He played it very different.
But even then, we went from 17 points clear to 1. You know what I mean? It was like things went wrong even then. But then everybody after that, as like you say, just picking different players doesn't seem to be working.
No.
Now, you got to. I think sometimes there's a lot to be said for, and it's nice that you shouldn't actually call players out in front of the camera. As a manager, I never told a member of my staff off on the shop floor. I always took them away from the floor to talk to them about stuff. But I think they need to know. I think what the club needs to do is get one of our shows, one of the BTG shows, one of Leicester Fan TV shows, the final whistle, and sit the players down and go, this is what the fans of this club think of you guys. And, he's got, and I know it's a bit awkward, it's a bit difficult now because we are in such shit that it's probably a risk doing this, but take the 11 players out and dump them en masse, and put the B team out there. The youth team. Okay, we might still lose, but they'll be sat there thinking, this is what you've driven this club to. I'm going to drop every single one of you, and I'm going to put the youth team out from the keeper up to the striker. And if we lose, we lose. But I tell you something, what they will show that you have never shown for God knows how long is fight and passion.
Yeah, I mean, what we seem to have as well is wingers that are ineffective. Fatua turns up when he wants to. He was absolutely dire again, which I predicted after the Bristol game. His wonderful game that he had, I predicted he'd be dire. Mavididi, yeah, I hear what Kate was saying. He had a reasonable game. But in terms of what his job is, he was absolutely ineffective.
Mm.
He what did he do that was effective? Nothing. And he's been like that for the whole season.
He knows every week that his position's reasonably safe. If he's not going to start,
it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be because we've got players that play wing.
Mm.
When Yana Marcel? He plays. Look, just give him a go. At least he's direct.
Yes.
If you haven't got competition behind you on the bench, you need that kind of cattle prod threat, don't you?
And why? And you know what I realised the other day? That these loan players that we got in are not the loan players that this manager wanted. They all came in before we appointed Rowett, and so Rowett's having to play. And you look at the thing and thinking, well, we've got all these loan players in. How many of them are actually playing? Why isn't Lascelles, with his experience, in the back four? Why isn't Aribo starting? He can't be any worse than what we've got. Why isn't Richard starting either on the wing, which Andy King thinks he is, or as a striker, which 99% of football fans think he is? It's probably
certainly not a winger.
No,
it's not a winger.
This is probably because the manager that is in place didn't pick those players. Now, whether it would have been any different had he been in there, but that 4 weeks when we had Andy King and Adam Sadler in charge, and I'm sorry, I love Kingy to bits, but those 4 weeks could be the 4 weeks that relegate us to League One. But looking forward, this is the worry. Look at the games that we've got coming up. So these were our remaining championship games. I'm going to sort of tick them or cross them off as we go through them. And I looked at this the other day after Bristol, and I'd said, I don't know if it was you I said it to, or one of the other shows, that we haven't actually got the worst run in. QPR, and again, no disrespect, and we've got the fan in there, no disrespect, but they should have been beatable. They would have looked at us as the same. I say I'm not taking anything away from them. Watford could be beatable. Preston are bottom of the form table at the moment. Wednesday are relegated. Swansea, Portsmouth are in the fight there with us. Blackburn on the last day, they've been in it. They've been in the shot, and their last days they're absolutely awful against Oxford. Apart from Hull and Millwall, there's games there that we should be taking points from. But look at that. That's on that game. Where can you see any points coming from that?
Well, I think this is the tricky thing, because there's so many different permutations to picking the form coming up to each game. What I will say is, I think if you win the next 3, that gives you 5 games to get 2 more wins, because I think we're going to need the 5 wins. I would suggest that if you don't win the next 3, you don't get to Blackburn with a chance of staying up. I think there'll be a bit of a reaction. I think we'll potentially get a point at Watford. I think we'll beat Sheffield Wednesday. I have to believe that. I think if we get a well-earned point at Watford, potentially we could beat Preston. But in terms of me sitting here confident about that, I'm not confident about any of those games. And I should be, because my attitude is, if you're going to go play a game, you go to win it. You go to win it, and you believe that you can win it. That belief drains out of players as soon as their game plan goes out the window. They don't have adaptability. This is why I always like teams that have, and I've said it many times, that have that maverick player, that their team is shit and the player's just gone, right, I'm taking control of this. Run half the length of the pitch and smash one into the top corner.
Yeah.
Now that's what's missing from football, if you ask me. And that's what's missing from this kind of team that we've got now. We're not allowing players to go, right, you play in a free range position. You go and pester people, make space, run, take people on, take shots, cause a nuisance. Because if it doesn't fit into that system, it all falls like a house of cards, isn't it? If you've got one pin that's not working, the whole house falls in.
Yeah.
And that's what I find with modern football.
Yeah, interesting. Norwich City are second in the form team, and look where they were earlier in the season. Watford, that could go either way, to be honest with you. I mean, the 10th, they've only won 2 of the last 6. They've lost 2, drawn 2, so could go either way. Preston, bottom of the form table, based on the last 5 or 6 games. That will come up later. But you just know we're going to lose that. Again, that's a team. When you're looking at the bottom of the form table, we're going to have that easy. Sheffield Wednesday, I don't think we'll get anything from that. I think they will actually beat us. They're down. No. What they're worried about, they're at home. So the family, we struggle to beat them on the first day of the season. Like I say,
I just think they're one of them teams that are just having no luck. You know, when your luck is down. I think if you lose to Sheffield Wednesday, I think you'll see some real problems amongst the fans.
Yeah. You've got, like I say, Swansea are in 11th. Portsmouth are actually losing at the moment. They're playing well, apparently, but they're 1-0 down, just coming up, not quite half-time yet. 1-0 down at Derby. After that game, though, they've still got a game in hand on us. So, they're on 40 at the moment, so they're catchable. 43 just moves them up one place, not away. But look, Hull's going to be difficult, and look, we know Millwall are as well. Hull are in 5th, so they're going to be trying to cement their playoff place. Might or might not be guaranteed by then. Millwall, they're not that far off automatic promotion, so they'll be battling. And look, we know what happens when we play Blackburn on the last day. So as I look at that, I'm thinking it's not the worst running in the world. However, I'm not confident. But
it's silly season though, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
where people are scrapping. The Watford's an interesting one because they're a little bit like Bristol, aren't they? Where they're kind of not on the beach, but they're not going to get relegated. They're not going to get promoted. You know, you just hope that it's kind of we can outfight them, want it a bit more, and maybe pick up 3 there. But I still think you've got to get 9 out of them next 3. I really do, because look at the bottom line. You know, starting from Swansea, they're very difficult.
Yes. Now, I'm not going to say that I know how to push your buttons, Clibbo, because it far be it from me to say that. But this next one is a one-word question, and I think you'll know where I'm going with it when you see it. And I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let you respond to this.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Now, that basically sums it up. That's what I was expecting. Look, we've started to agree on a lot of things now. One of the things we do agree on is the best form of defence is attack.
Yes.
Keep the opposition. You know, nobody's ever won a war by defending. Do you know what I mean? Nobody weren't defeated because they sat back and defended. It's because we went after them. You know, the last time anything happened like that was the first Gulf War, when we were against Iraq and Saddam Hussein, and we kicked them out of Kuwait, got to the border and stopped. And what happened? They came back a few years later and had another go at us. We're now looking at this thinking, right, we're at home. We are playing against a team that has got loads of injuries. Apparently, according to one of their fans, they've got a dodgy keeper. I don't know. Like I say, I don't know him that well. But why the fuck are we playing Jordan Ayew?
Well, this is something I've wrestled with in my head. I mean, my dad uses an expression. What is it? He gives my arse the earache every time I see him, and he does. And the only thing, and I realised that when I first started to say it, I had this discussion with Reese, that I sounded like a conspiracist. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm telling you now, that guy plays because there's something in his contract. Because if you're telling me that a manager keeps picking him because of his efficacy on the pitch, and I'm calling liar, calling bullshit, because there's nothing. He doesn't even when he comes on as a sub, you know, you might think, right, let's get him on, hold the ball up, create a few free kicks, you know, that kind of thing. He doesn't do any of that. He does nothing. He's the most useless player I think he's the most useless player I've ever seen. Well, I mean, I've seen quite a lot of teams a lot of players play for Leicester over the years, but he has to be up there in the top 3 worst players I've ever seen for this club.
Let me go through this then, because I literally have just loaded this up. I didn't do it this time, but I want to just go through his stats for the game. He played 60 minutes, so what's that? 2/3 of the game he played, so played the majority. Goals 0, shots 0, shots on target 0, assists 0, expected assists 0, chances created 0, fouls committed 0, fouls won 1, and that's what he's supposed to be good at. Total passes 5, total tackles none, tackles won none, saves none, but let's not literally expect him to go in goal. That is your number 9, and that is the guy that was given the responsibility to lead the line against a team that's going through mayhem. And, you know, look, the goalkeeper's conceded 15 goals in 14 games. And I'm going to say it, complete and utter tosser was put up front. Well, I'll be honest with you, they say you're not fit to wear the shirt. That shirt that he wears, I would not even wipe my arse with it after I've had a fucking diarrhea attack.
The thing is, Chris, is that football today, largely, discussions, programs, Sky is all based around stats, and that goes with managers, the way that they plan and prepare and set out their objectives for each game. So the manager will have seen those stats every game.
As a fact, yes, he probably would. But then I go back to the question: why? If the manager has seen those stats, unless Rowett is fucking brain dead, and maybe the only way you get the job of being a manager at Leicester is to have undergone a lobotomy, then why is he being picked? Why?
It's contract. There's something in his contract that he has to get. That he has to get an appearance.
Do you know what? He's got 4 months left on his contract. Buy it out. Pay him off. We've got this new director of footballing that's come from the City Group. One of his first decisions, apparently, I think it was Reese that said it the other night, one of his first decisions was to extend Opoku's contract by a season so that at least we get something for him and we don't lose somebody else for nil. Now, it might only be 50 grand or whatever, but 50 grand is 50 grand. So what? He's going to be looking at that and going, right, well, for fuck's sake, how much would it cost us to rip his contract up? Right, let's just rip his contract up, pay him off, and get him out of the club. Embarrass him, because he would then have that reputation of being the player that couldn't make it into a relegated, threatened team and had his contract ripped up.
I don't think he's good enough to play. I mean, if you're a League One side, you wouldn't pick him because he has none of the attributes to play in a dog. You know what I mean? Like League One, it's honest football, if nothing else. But he couldn't play at that level. He's not good enough, and yet he's our Vardy replacement. Well, I don't like to use that word Vardy replacement because there was no way of replacing Vardy. But in essence, he took the number 9 shirt that Vardy vacated, and I think that was bad enough. Personally, I would have retired the 9 for a season till we could get a 9 at least. But to give it him, I just felt I don't know whether it was an attack on Vardy or one of them, a Rudkin move, because let's be honest, I don't think they were exactly best buddies.
No.
But it stinks. Yeah, this is the season where you think, right, I've only got one striker, and it's Daka. Let's just give him the season. Whether he scores or not, let's give him the season. Because I think if we'd have given him the season, he might well have got double figures by now. Because
in any other job, Clibbo, if somebody comes out and says, "Oh, I've lost my job, I've been made redundant," or whatever, you're going, it is what it is. It's the industry, blah blah blah. Somebody comes out and says, "I've been sacked," and they're paying me the next 4 weeks off, so that I'm going now. That's embarrassing. To be told to leave now and to pack your bags, clear your desk. And here we're going to go. We'd sooner pay you 4 weeks' wages than have you sat there working for us. That's what we should be doing with this guy because he's costing us more. Because he will be one of the main reasons this club gets relegated this season. And yes, you could argue he's not the only one, and it's not a one-man sport, all that shit. Oh. But he's going to be one of the main reasons we go down. Why? And if it is in his contract, rip his fucking contract up for God's sake.
I'd like to know. I mean, if anyone in the chat's got any better suggestions, it's true. That is perfect. Why? Because I've racked my brains to think, right, let's be rational about this. Why would you put him in? What are his attributes? What is he good at? When are we bringing him on? Is that the right situation? I've really analysed this because he's got right up my fucking nose. Oh yeah, I'll tell you that now. He's been living rent free in my head. He's pissing me off. That's the only thing I can say. Excuse my French, but he's pissing me off because he's lazy. And the fact that he walks off the pitch like Charlie Chaplin, quite frankly, it's an embarrassment. He's got that walk where he kind of hobbles and he looks bow-legged. He looks like a footballer that's run his course. Let's say that. That's kind.
And he'll go off and he'll go home to his wife and go, oh, should we go out for a meal tomorrow? We'll go out to the Ivy or somewhere in London and we'll have a nice meal because I'm on 30 grand a week for doing nothing. I just think let's just embarrass him the way he's embarrassing the team. Like I say, he might have that contract, but just rip it up and give it to Daka or Richards, because this guy is doing fucking nothing. He is taking up somebody else's oxygen by even breathing, in Leicester. So I'm sorry, I want him out. Now, my next talking point, and it's the final of the talking points, there was another protest at the weekend, Clibbo.
Yeah, I've got quite a controversial view of this.
Yeah.
Which I've only discussed with Reese.
I'm not against protests, and I question the first one because of the timing of it, because it was and he said if you went then it was Rowett's first game in charge, so I just question the timing of it. But I am now asking this question, and the question is: should the protest now move inside the KP for the next televised match? Because the powers that be, we know they don't give a shit about us. They know that we can protest all we want. It isn't going to make any difference. There was a huge crowd at the last protest outside the stadium going, Rudkin out. Now, Top would have heard that. Top has got Rudkin's dick so far up his arse, he probably feels like he's a mannequin, a puppet.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, thank you. That's how John's working him. But that's how it just gets me so annoyed. And they look at it and they go, all this sort of, the thing that people say is, let's back the boys. And that was something that Steve said in his video, back the lads. Why? Why should we back the lads, Steve? Because the lads are fucking shit. They don't deserve backing. I would not piss on any of them if they were on fire. That's how awful they are. So why? Why should we back them? Now, I know the guys that got season tickets and pay for the ticket and what have you. Well, let's see the protest, because, and I know that's probably before the match there that picture's taken, but for effective purposes, that's what the cameras were picking up on all sides of the ground. That would, again, embarrass the club, just as they have embarrassed us as fans for the last couple of seasons. Let's embarrass Top. Let's embarrass John. Let the new guys that are coming in, let them see what they've walked into. Let's get the protests inside the stadium. And you're not telling me, guys, that anybody who's got a season ticket, and all right, you're losing 30, 40 quid. I know it's a lot of money to people, and I accept that. But you're not telling me that you wouldn't sooner go and have a Saturday afternoon with your lads, with the kids, or go down the pub with the lads, or even, treat the missus, to a shopping spree or whatever, than go and watching that load of shite perform.
Right, okay. So I'm going to upset a few people here. I don't really care, but anybody who's going to be upset by this, hear me out. If you think a few hundred people walking to the stadium is going to alter the minds of a multi-billionaire, you're deluded. However, I completely support you doing that.
Yeah.
And you have an absolute right to do that. And if it's because you want to get stuff off your chest, more power to your elbow. But if you think that it's going to change the mind of a multi-billionaire, you are deluded, right? That's what I will say. Now, I spoke to Reece about it because he went to it. And I said, do you feel better for doing it? And he went, yeah. I said, what do you think it's going to achieve? And he looked at me and he said, well, I don't know. I said, well, it's going to achieve nothing. That's the unfortunate part of it. He said, I can't support these people anymore. I said, Are you buying a season ticket? Did you buy a season ticket this season? Yeah. You're going to buy one next season? I don't know. I said, well, if you buy a season ticket, you're supporting them, aren't you? So the only way you're going to get them to pay any attention is not to buy a season ticket and not to turn up to the ground. Then they'll listen. But people won't do that. I said, well, people are not turning up for these 500 people. I mean, I'm not being funny, but if you were the owner of a business and you saw 500 people protesting out of 25,000, look at the percentage. You're going to go, yeah, well, I'm not really that bothered, because next week it'll be 200 people, which is what happened pretty much, isn't it? Now, again, for those people I'm annoying now, I don't apologise for it because I don't mean to annoy you, but that's the reality. That's the reality of it.
And
a couple of hundred people. Yeah. But I support your right to do it. I support your right to do it.
Like I said, the only thing I had against the protest was the fact that it was Rowett's first game. I just thought the timing was out. As you know, I've said this on a previous show. That weekend shows I was saying it. But I back the right of them to protest. Will it make any difference? Who knows? No. But look at Sheffield Wednesday. The players refused to buy the new shirts at the start of the season. Now, all right, it didn't make any difference in the long term, but it did show Shanziri that where's all that, where's that money that I need, because that's what they live on. Now, okay, I've actually bought the 3 shirts this season. 2 of them were via the club shop, and the third one was not via the club shop. Let me just say that. So you can guess the different amounts that I paid. Now, if I don't go to the games anyway because I live in Dorset, I don't have a car. I couldn't, it would take me a week just to go up there to watch a 90-minute match. But I've supported them over the years. I've bought all this stuff. The only way to get through to these people is in their pockets and embarrass them. I never saw, because, the last game, because it was on Sky, the last game, they did show the protest before the match. If I didn't know that protest at the weekend was going on, I wouldn't have. It was not on the telly. There was, there's no sort of thing. And what's the point? It's like going I'm going to protest about this, but I'm going to keep it really quiet and do it in a back room where nobody knows we're there, which is what we're getting now.
I agree.
Get into the, or don't get into the ground. I'd say 30, 40 quid. I do appreciate, that's a lot of money for some people. And I don't know what, if you've got a ticket, how much, some could be a lot more than that. So I know we're saying to people, give away money if you like. But, you'd go and piss that up a wall on a Saturday night probably. So show the club how you feel. If it's on telly, you're not going to miss out because you can still sit at home and watch it. But can you imagine the Sky cameras or the TNT, whoever it is, I think it's Sky, isn't it? It's got to be Sky, cameras at that thing at kickoff going, fucking, where is everybody? That would embarrass them so much. And one thing that the Thai people don't like is being embarrassed.
Yeah, of course.
You need to the team, Richard. Well, look, I'm not going to argue with you because you say you're not a Leicester fan, and a fan, you can look at things from the outside, and
the fans have backed the team. The fans have backed the team.
They have, but there comes a point,
and the fans are pissed off.
Yeah, there comes a point where, and I know a Sheffield Wednesday podcaster. He actually does the show sometimes with me on TalkSport on their second tier podcast thing. Thank you, Michael. And as an outsider, yes, you have an opinion. And we look at Man United with the Glazers. We all have an opinion about that, but we don't know how Man United fans really feel because we're not a fan of that club. Now with Manchester United, if they said, right, nobody turn up this Saturday, we're playing Liverpool, let's just leave the stadium empty, it'll hit the owners, and then they would turn around and they say, well, we'll put those tickets back on general sale. They'd fill it like that with Manchester United because of the support they got. That wouldn't happen here because we have got the fans to fill that stadium twice over. Well, we haven't got them to fill the stadium once at the moment. 26,000, I think there was there at the weekend, in a 32,000 capacity stadium.
The thing is, for me, I mean, like, I'm not trying to justify what I said, because that's what I.
No, I'm not. No, I agree with you.
But the only way, you can't have it both ways. You can't say I want to support the team that are not doing any good and they're not giving a shit. We've all said that. All the hardcore fans have said the players don't give a shit. So you're supporting players that don't give a shit. You're coming out of the ground pissed off. It's ruining your weekend, and the owners are still doing what they're doing. And what did they do after your last protest? They promoted the wankers. Yeah. So what does that tell you? They're not interested. They're not interested. If you stop going to that ground and you stop buying their products, that's when they'll notice.
Yes.
And listen, if people started giving up their season tickets and they're like, well, we don't want to give them up in case we can't get another one. I'm telling you now, there'll be hands full of them. You won't be able to give them away, because it'll be League One. Your young kids that are coming up, your potential Leicester fans, will then go and support Chelsea, will then go and support Liverpool, because we know what young'uns are like these days. I'm not being funny, but you only got to look around the streets to see how many. I've seen people wearing Newcastle shirts down here. I mean, have a word with yourself. So there will be season tickets. I think you've really got to. I think people have really got to, if they really want to make a difference by telling these people it's time for you to go. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And I completely want them to go, because they've overstayed their welcome now, and it's causing massive division between the fans.
Yeah. Everything that we were before they came in is now back, if you like. It's gone full circle.
But it's worse.
Yeah, well, yes, I won't argue with that. But when they came in, there were great owners. That we thought hello, and the united fans and the club, and we felt we were part of the club. Now, no, it's complete. Everybody was saying like we want to be like Leicester. Nobody's saying they want to be like Leicester now. And look, you could say, well, we can't keep claiming the death of Vichai, though. That's the thing. And that happened. And it's like anything else, the Queen is dead, long live the King. Things go on, and you have to carry on. He's had to carry on running King Power. But I just think this is the only way that we're going to get through to them. Because, as you say, for the last protest, we protested. Well, I didn't, I wasn't there, but they protested. Then they went into the match and supported the guys during the match. So we do support the fans, but I think we've got to the players. But it comes to a point where the players don't give a shit. Why should we give a shit? And
I've got to take my hat off to the. I mean, I can't get down as much as I used to.
No.
For various reasons, but I'll take my hat off to the fans, and I genuinely mean this. If you're a season ticket holder down there, and you go down there and you sing and you clap and you give the players for 90 minutes, I take my hat off to you, because you are the lifeblood of this club. And you deserve much better than you're being given. But the problem is, the times I've been down there, it's like a graveyard. It's like a graveyard. And this was before we were in this shit. It's like a graveyard, because there just seems to be this. You can hear people talking. You can hear people on their phones. I mean, that's not going to the football. I don't know whether you ever did you ever used to go in any of the Pen 3, Pen 2 and all that?
Yes, yeah.
That was going to football. And I'm quite sad that Reese's age group will never experience that. That was going down to football.
I was in the cop pens where before they actually had, because at one point they had one of the pens was kept empty to keep the away fans and the home fans apart. But I remember being in a pen. I presume it was pen 2. I can't remember. But when we were playing Chelsea, it was a Friday night. We were playing Friday night because the Tigers were playing on the Saturday. I got a bottle of Coke taken off me because they deemed it was a lethal weapon, so they took that off me. Chelsea fans broke from their pen into our pen. There was only about 20, 30 of them, but everybody in pen 2 we just ran into the corner. There was like a thousand of us.
I remember getting smacked round the back of the head by a copper in pen 3 because we'd scored. You know how it used to surge and you used to have those barriers.
Yeah.
I was going flying into one of them and ended up flying into a copper, elbowing him. It was a mistake. You can't help it.
Well, no,
I was only about 15.
Well, I think at this match I was working. So, I went with my mate, Simon, I think it was. The one thing about him, he was built like a brick shithouse. He was like my bouncer. But Leicester went and scored. And I'm thinking, for fuck's sake, Leicester. You know what I mean? There was fighting down the family side and everything. And then, thank God, Chelsea equalised. And I remember wanting to leave at half-time. I said, because I'm not enjoying this. Why am I sat here not enjoying this game? And I said to this copper, I said, right, can you let us out, please? Because back in those days, they locked all the fucking doors so you couldn't get out. Yeah. So he went down, he opened the door, stuck his head out, and looked both ways and went, run for it. And there was actually a stabbing that night. But I also want to go back. The last time I had a season ticket was when we had the year of the Great Escape. Now, I live in Dorset, so to travel from Dorset up to Leicester, let's say 3 hours. Often it was longer than that, but let's say 3 hours. Then you have a stop on the way for a piss and a bite to eat. And then you've got to find somewhere to park. Then you've got to walk to the stadium. So it was probably a full 8 hours, 9 if you include the match with everything. And you know what? I went every home game with my son, and we would drive back down 3 hours, 3.5 hours, because it obviously took longer to get out because of all the traffic. And yes, we were losing every time, but the players gave a damn.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not mind paying for the petrol, the season ticket. It was an experience. It was a time to be with my son, a dad-son, bonding, if you like. But the players in that season, yes, we were losing week in, week out, but those players gave a fuck. Those players fought for their place. All right, they didn't always keep it because of the way Pearson was that year, but I didn't mind. I wouldn't do that for this lot.
No, and I think that's the difference between, at this point, I'm 99% we're going down.
Yeah.
And that's not me just being pessimistic. I think if you look overall, stat-wise, it ain't looking like we can get out of this.
Yeah.
I think when we went down last time, the players weren't good enough, but they tried, largely. So that's why. I think that was the lowest point of my Leicester tenure as a supporter. But this is going to be worse for me because I'm just going to be angry. I'm going to be angry for the entire pre-season.
The only good thing when we went down to League One before was the fact that we only lost, I think, 3 games of the whole season. That ain't going to happen this time. But look,
no, we had a bloody good strike force in that league.
Yes, we did. Right, let's look. This is what gets me annoyed because this was the form going into this match. I went for a 3-0 win to Leicester, and like I say, fair play to QPR. They wanted it more than us. And I was saying to somebody earlier, he was a Villa fan, and I was saying the thing with the Oxford when I watched them against Blackburn was I would have 2 of their players in our team for the fight that they showed and the determination. Yeah. We don't have that. But when you look at that, and they've won 1 out, and then they've lost the next 4, you've got to say I felt optimistic going in. We'd only lost we'd lost 1 in the last 5. We'd won, just come off a win. We'd drawn the others against some very good teams. I was optimistic, and that's why I went for a 3-0 to Leicester.
Well, I went 3-1. I got the score the wrong way round. But the thing for me, is that after the Bristol game and obviously previous times that we've won, we can assume that if we beat Watford, that's who we've got next, isn't it? Watford.
Yeah.
That it's another false dawn, and
Yeah.
it's sod's law that all the other results will not be advantageous for us. So I don't trust that we'll go on a run because we've not done it all season. So why would we start now?
I mean, I actually said that if we don't beat or get something against QPR, then the Bristol match, it wasn't worth the salt.
Yeah.
To be
Of
honest
course.
with you. Now, when I saw this team, this was the starting lineup. I didn't feel too bad. Okay, Chowdhury, he's no captain. I'm sorry. You could argue that maybe sometimes he's a bit like a Beckham. He doesn't go and shout, but he leads by example. But even that's gone out of his game. Jordan James coming back and starting. I agree, but I can't believe I'm going to say this. I was Wink's been playing well, yet he was dropped. Fatawu and Mavididi, they turn up one week, they don't turn up the next week. Mukasa, I was pleased that he came in. I wanted him to start. He'd been my man of the match for a couple of those games for the last 5. It was awful in this game. And I say, when I saw Ayew up front, and you literally said, you WhatsApped me a message as soon as the team came out, and I think you just went, fucking Ayew, or something like that. I'm like, yeah, mate, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at that lineup on paper, again, football's not played on paper.
Yeah.
You've got to be quietly confident that you're going to beat a side of QPR's quality. But the problem for me is that Mukasa, I think for the last few games hasn't been particularly good. The last few times I've seen him play. In fact, I think he's been quite ordinary. And actually, something Kate said, which at the time, it sort of struck me as, oh, really? When she said, I'm not convinced. And I was like, I was all aboard the Mukasa train. And she said, he doesn't work hard enough. And I thought, I'm going to take a bit more notice of this. And whether he's just caught the Leicester City disease, I agree with that. And there's a lot of things that I don't agree, and she's probably vice versa, but that's opinions. But definitely agree with what she's saying.
2 words you said there, quite ordinary. And yet, for me, I'd still sooner have him in that position than Bobby Dakova-Reid.
You see, I would drop him for the next match.
But do you see what I'm getting at with that is the fact that by being quite ordinary, you're better than our other options.
No, because I think the other options...
Well, no, that's only my opinion again. Only my opinion, of course.
Yeah. But in response, no, I think they're all ordinary. When you look at somebody like Mukasa, his upbringing is a lot different to what the situation is in. Now, if things are going well, and those sort of triangles and those sort of patterns of play in that system are working for them 10, 15, 20 minutes, he's going to look like a world beater in that league. But when the chips are down, this is a situation he's not used to being in. He's been pampered at Man City and brought up with the best coaching, all this. And I'm now starting to think he needs to work harder or he's going to look ordinary. Yeah. And Kate was right. So if you're watching, Kate, you are right.
Well, come on. Oh, God, don't tell her that. We won't get a head through the door. They'll have to do the expansion at King Power Stadium just to get her in the crowd.
No, but I say if I don't agree with her, I say if I do.
I know. I'm just bantering there, but look, those are and again, something that was said to me by Tom, one of the co-presenters on this channel, was that Rowett has a completely different, outlook. He changes formations. He does things. Now, I'm looking at those substitutions. There's nothing about changing formations there. No, it was just, again, like for like replacement. And, well, he said, again, this is what gets me. when you look at the last time we played QPR and they played us off the pitch, they stuffed us, and it was 4-4-2, and they stuffed us, and they played us off the pitch, and they came along again and played 4-4-2, and they played us off the pitch. Where is anybody that's looking at that and going, are you sure about that, Gary? Last time we did this, they really, really battered us.
Yeah, the worrying thing is, I think, I mean, I'm not saying I've got an encyclopedic knowledge of teams in this shit league, but am I right in thinking that Watford play 4-4-2 as well?
I'm not sure. Sheffield United do, and twice they beat us because we played 4-2-3-1. Again, that
I might be wrong. In the chat, if anyone knows, let me know.
Yeah, that was Cifuentes not learning. This is Gary Rowett not learning. You could say the argument is, well, he wasn't there. So what the fuck is Andy King doing? Why isn't Andy King going and saying, we played this last time and they fucking stuffed us? We were the Christmas turkey for Queen's Park Rangers because they absolutely...
Well, if you look...
Why are we going for the same formation?
The systems really, on the whole, haven't changed, have they? If we change it, we'll revert back to it. So is somebody upstairs, mentioning no names, telling them this is how we want our team to play?
Yeah.
Now, it's not without the realms of possibility. And again, I sound like a tinfoil hat brigade. But listen, there's so many things that go on in clubs that none of us are privy to. Doesn't matter how many contacts you have at the club, none of us are privy to. There's people I know at the club that drop me bits of information here and there. You have to be very careful what you say, but even they wouldn't be able to disclose some of the shit that's going on there.
Ricardo for Chowdhury. Richards for James. That was a little bit of a strange one because, again, why are we not playing Richards up front? Because we're playing Daka up front. That's fine, but why not play Richards and Daka together? Because Daka, before he came to Leicester, always played with two up front. Winks for Skip. Okay, I get that. Dakova Reed for Mukasa. Again, I probably can't argue with that because, again, it's like for like. But who else have we got? Well, we've got Monga to play in that position if anybody ever played him in the right place. But, to me, they're not one substitution there, I would say, affected the game or had the potential to affect the game.
No, because listen, if you're doing like for like, because somebody's injured or they're tiring, they've hit their max.
Yeah,
you can understand it. But if you're losing and you just do like for like, I don't see the point in that. Something has to change.
You could argue that with James because he's, this was his first start after being out for a while.
He's not fit. He's not fit. He's not match fit.
Why not bring on Winks for him? Because Winks and Skip have been pretty much a very good combination. And yet, no, we bring on we think he's a striker. Andy King thinks he's a winger, and yet we bring him on in replace of James.
I can see Winks and Skip starting the next game, and I can see him putting James at number 10, which we know he's not the best at, but I can see him to try and fit in his best players. I honestly expect something different next game, or we know there's a problem.
I get what you're saying, and
I wouldn't do that.
No, I wouldn't. But I would give him credit for trying something, right? We know, again, you would hope that Andy King, although Andy King hasn't got any, I don't know whether he's left his balls out in the ice, but I don't think he's got any because, allegedly, because he should be going, and if he does that, he should be going up to and saying, look, Marty played James at that, number 10 role a couple of times, didn't really work. But no, Andy King over there going, just bend over a bit more, Gary, so I can lick your arse. Yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. But I would give him credit. But to me, what you gain right, if we're going to put James in to that number 10, I don't think you are actually gaining anything because, like you say, it's not. You're losing more by taking him out of his normal role and putting him into a new role. Does that make sense?
Yes, but however, he's not ineffective as a 10, but it's not his favourite position. If you ask me, is he better than what we've got at number 10 currently? Then yes is the answer. So you are gaining in another area.
Yeah, I just think sometimes if you're playing a right back at left back, James Justin, what you're losing by putting that player on that, in a different position, and I'd sooner put square pegs in square holes, if you like, But we'll wait and see. We're not managers, but look, here's the stats very quickly. We had 62% possession, did fuck all with it. Our XG was 0.42, 1.1 below QPR. We had 9 shots compared to their 14. Now, let me tell you that at half time, where am I? At half time, we had 5 shots and they'd had 8. By the end of the game, we'd had 9 and they'd had 14. We had 2 shots on target. All right, they only had 3, but guess what? They scored 3 goals. We had 2 shots on target. For these players, and I say 7 of them are ex-Premier League players, it's awful. It's awful. And we also we had 19 touches in their box. God knows what we were doing with it, and they had 23 in ours. Now this is the stat thing that I like to look at. If you looked at that, and Leicester Blues this week, and QPR from in the yellow, if you look at that, and you didn't know the score, and you said the team at the top were the. In fact, have I got the right one up there? Just bear with me. I think I've put the wrong one up there.
That looks very similar to the last one, but
yes, I think probably
with a yellow.
Yeah, because I think I had, because as I update these as I do it, and I think I went off and had some lunch, thinking I'd do that when I get back, and I don't think I actually did. I'm fucking typical of me. I can't now find where it is. No, I haven't. I haven't saved it. Would you believe? Well, so we'll ignore that stat. Oh, hang on. No, I might have it here. Panic thee not, Clibo. Let me have a look. Have I got it here? No, I didn't. I just didn't save it. So I did it and didn't save it. But what I'm going to do is, what I can do is, I can bring up this. Don't get this on Sky Sports, do you? Revenue review, right? You'll have to have a look at it like this, I'm afraid. But there we go. That's this week's. I thought that, and there wasn't enough goals on it. When you look at that, to me, it says, yeah, all right. So we had. It looks like we had as good as, and probably slightly more momentum than they did, but we just don't do anything with it when we've got it. And when they had it, look, they scored 2 goals. When we had the momentum, there's a big piece there in the second half after the 3rd goal, we did fuck all with it.
Well, I mean, this is why I go back to what I said earlier. It doesn't matter. And again, Kate on her video said possession doesn't win you games. We proved that winning the Premier League. Now, teams have figured out very quickly what we're weak at and what we've been weak at all season. And when they get the ball, they just target it. And we know it's going to happen, and yet we still can't deal with it. And look at where they've scored their 3 goals. I mean, it was in quite a quick succession. So they knew very quickly that our heads drop. So he just piled the pressure in, killed us off in that 15-minute block or whatever, and then just we're able to soak up the pressure because we haven't got anything up front, and we're scoring goals. Yes, we can score goals, but if you look at a lot of the goals this season, they're either outside the box, worldies, and again, you can't rely on them. It's nice to see a worldie because it gets the fans off the seats. But listen, I don't care if it comes off, somebody's knob.
Yeah.
A flick on. I don't care now at this stage. I just want wins. Draws are not going to be good enough anymore. And the way we play, again, from that video, Kate said we were playing like we were the team that were winning.
Yeah. No,
we've seen it time after time. See, I was listening, Chris. I was listening.
and she said she does sometimes, and I better not say anything because I'll get attacked by the feminist lobby. But look, she knows what she's talking about, Kate, and she does make some good points. Right, let's have a look and shall we and see. And I haven't heard this yet, so this is going to be a first time for me. Let's hear what Gary had to say post match.
I think 20 minutes was what you're expecting from the side today.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, we started quite well. We started quite brightly. I think within that period we created some good moments. We created some good areas and some good wide play. I thought Steffi looked really bright. JJ scores a goal. Really good moment to go ahead. And maybe in that period I still felt it was a little bit too easy for QPR to get into our final third and create corners or crossing opportunities or throw-ins. But I didn't feel too vulnerable in those moments. I think perhaps around the sort of half an hour mark we lacked a little bit of energy towards the end of the first half. We conceded a really, really poor goal. Maybe that knocks the stuffing out of the players, I don't know, but it's a ball over the top that we should deal with. We should be dropping, we should be dealing with it as one player against three of our defenders. Runs in, obviously Yak comes out to try and deal with it, nicks it round him, and it's an easy goal. And at that point, that feels like a giveaway lead. Spoke to the players at half-time, wasn't too happy about half-time. I could have made several changes at half-time. I decided to give the players a little bit longer to see if they could do something about it. And I think the easiest way to explain it is you cannot concede another 2 goals on the back of that first one in the manner that we did. The first one's a breakaway. I think JJ misses a header or flicks a header without much purchase on it. They break away, cross the ball. The ball's going into Yak's hands. Ben, of course, maybe he's not aware of there's no attacker around him. He slides in and he clips it over Yak. So to go 2-1 down at that point, I didn't feel as though it was necessarily the opposition that did that to us. We did it to ourselves, and then the third one's a set piece, free header 6 yards out. So you can't, you have to do the basics better. I think the players have embraced the basics in the games that we've had. They showed a little bit more fight, a little bit more determination today. For an hour, we didn't show that, and that's why we lost the game. It's really simple, it's really simple. If we don't embrace that side of it, if we don't want to work hard to try and get a result, if we don't want to defend our box, if we don't want to, do the basics of the game defensively, it's always going to be difficult.
A word for Ben Nelson. He's become such a key part of the back line over recent weeks and months, and he's had a couple of tough moments this afternoon. But he's got the right mentality, hasn't he, to bounce back from this afternoon, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. I think that's been one of our challenges, really. But like I said, Ben, when I first came in, looked like perhaps he'd not been playing with the same confidence that I saw him last season. But then he feels like those performances are built. I thought he was outstanding on Tuesday night. I thought he was outstanding Ipswich away. But I suppose sometimes you just want that consistency with players. We're at a stage of a season where we can't afford to not perform. I don't think it was just Ben today, but I thought there was certainly a couple of those moments were his mistakes, which are unfortunate for him. He's got to do something about it, and that's the whole team. I think second half is a little bit symptomatic of what I've seen over a period, that we want the game to be perfect. We want to just go and play our way through a team that's happy just to drop in, block, work really hard to not allow anything. We've got to work harder than them to open spaces up, and we didn't. I just thought we wanted the game to look lovely, and unfortunately a 3-1 game for me at home certainly doesn't look lovely.
We know how quickly things can turn in the Championship, as we saw the win on Tuesday night and today, this afternoon. How do you and the coaching staff get the players back up, wipe the slate clean, not just physically but mentally too?
I spoke to him in there. I said, listen, we've got a choice. We've got a choice. What do we do next? Do we all sit here and whinge about the fact that we've lost? Do we all blame people for moments in the game? Or do we pull together and actually embrace where we are and embrace what we're trying to do? So I've got, like I said before, I've got no magic wand. All I can do is come in and tell the players where I think we're going wrong, work during the week to tell them what I think we're missing in certain ways, in certain games. What I might have to do is start to pick a team that I feel will actually do that more regularly. That's the second game. The 2 losses have come off the back of a 3-game week. And we've tried to mix it up for the energy, but it was another game where I just felt the energy was lacking. So again, that's something we've got to look at. But yeah, look, life's about, you get knocked down, what you're going to do, you get up and you fight, and I think we've got to show a little bit more fight, I think, in our performance. That's not just the answer, but I think in general, just that little bit of extra determination. I think everybody in the stadium would feel at the moment, and that's a bit that we haven't done consistently well, and that's why, we are where we are in the division.
I want to just quickly reply to Ronald's point there. I think you'll find that's going to be at any club, because these interviews aren't being done by Sky, aren't being done by BBC, because if they were, I wouldn't be allowed to show them. I'd be getting copyright strikes left, right and centre from YouTube. So when we show these, they're always done by the club channel. And I'm sure if you go on to Manchester United or West Ham or Wolves, and their managers are being questioned by their own staff, that they're going to be that sort of interview. But look, he said Clibo could have made several changes at half time. Well, why the fuck didn't you then? You're giving this team, you're giving this team a little bit longer. You gave them 15, nearly 20 minutes.
Yes, and in my opinion, that interview changed a few things about how I think about what he's doing at this club. We have all seen a little bit more, it's tightened up a little bit, but you're still persisting with players that are not putting it in. And the other thing I picked up on there, which you probably was going to mention as well, was the lack of energy. Well, I would call that lack of fitness. And it surprises me, but I think one of the things is when you're a possession-based team, you don't have to run as hard. You don't have to chase as hard, because we all know that teams that play against possession-based teams usually get tired from having to chase. Yeah. Well, that's not quite worked out for us this season, and we've been found out.
Yeah, totally. Do you think, look, I said after the Bristol game, I said it's a bit like me on my birthday and me missus that I said at the start of the show. One swallow doesn't make a summer. And we beat Bristol, and we get very, very excited. And I fall into this trap. God, didn't we play well against Bristol? I saw some nice bits, and that was and all this. But then we also get, I think, too critical when we're looking at some games as well. We very much, and I suppose the managers can't do this, but we are very, we tend to look at things, I think, as one-offs. And they're not, but that's being a fan, isn't it? That's what fans do. They don't think, give this guy another 6 games and he might actually, be okay. We're not. We always react to what we've just seen on that day.
Well, maybe, just to put a positive spin on this, because I think on balance, we've got to try and find something positive. Maybe. Well, my personal opinion is it's been coming, but I think this now is our breaking point. And I genuinely believe that if we don't get 9 points out the next 3 games, we have no chance. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
maybe this is the breaking point that makes the players realise. You know, maybe they realise. And I think Rowett looked like, I think in that interview, I've not quite seen. You can see in his face there was a level of not disappointment. I wouldn't say disappointment because I've seen disappointment on his face. I think he was disappointed after the Norwich game, for instance. That was pure pissed off anger, and just the way he was talking at the end, saying, "Well, you know, they need to be a bit more fight, but that's not all it is. You know, I can keep telling them that they need to do this and be better at this." So he wasn't calling the players out by name, but he was calling the players out there. And I think if any of the players were watching that and they didn't realise, well, then you have got massive problems.
I want to just go, this is a point you made, a very good point you made. I don't want to big you up too much because, you know,
now and again, Chris, I make
now and again's okay. But no, you did make a very good point, and that was about the fitness. Now the thing is, can I take you back a couple of seasons to when we brought in Dean
Rodgers.
Smith?
Oh
Yeah, to Rodgers. We brought in Dean Smith, exactly. Yeah. And he said fitness, didn't he?
Yeah.
What the fuck has changed? Or should we take those guys and say, right, get on the team bus, we're going on a day trip out, and then take them all back to Beaver Drive and say, right, we're going to do the training here today. No swimming pool, no jacuzzi, no 3-star meal, you know, in the canteen. You're going to just work fucking hard here with the women.
Yeah, the problem is with today's football and society is that these fucking players would sulk at that. They wouldn't respond to it. You know, they're entitled bastards, and they've been given too much money too early. You know, if you're starting a job, you start there and build your way up to promotions.
Yeah.
These players are on contracts. I don't care who you are. I've got a modest house, a modest lifestyle. Money doesn't mean shit to me. My dog and me, that's it, right? And my kids and my grandkids, obviously. But the thing is, if I was given £1 million tomorrow and I said to you, it's not going to change me, I'm fucking lying to you, Chris. I'm lying to you. And at 52, it would change my life and it would change my outlook on everything.
Yes.
So these players are millionaires in their early 20s, some of them, right? And in their teens, they're earning thousands and thousands, right? Their attitudes are so different to 80s, 90s players, 70s, 80s, 90s players, that if you took them to Beaver Drive and say, right, Jakob, you've got to dive in that. Do you remember what Mark Wallington used to have to guard? You know, his goal looked like Skegness Beach.
Yeah.
You know, they were used to that. These players wouldn't respond to it. They would get the arse. And that's what pisses me off.
When was the last time any of the youth players cleaned the boots of the first teamers? Yeah, they used to do that, didn't they? They used to have to earn the right. They don't do that anymore.
It was like apprenticeships, wasn't it? It was like their apprenticeship. Yeah.
I'm going to play this again. I played it at the start, but it was the end of Rowett's interview, and I cut it off a little bit short, of course.
We're doomed.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, we're not going to do because I mean I'm just so annoyed, and to be honest with you, I don't think I would give any of the players many points at all. So we're not going to do that. I am going to. The funny thing was because we have the official one that comes through from Alan, who goes to the game, and then we have at the post match, as you know, you were on it last week. We have all our individual ones. Now, I have to say that Chris, that's me, by the way, me, Jim, Tom, and Luke, who popped on, all had. There's 4 of us, and we all had 4 different man of the matches. And that's how bad it was. We all couldn't agree. The performance we did all agree on. So I'm going to ask you, Clibbo, first of all, out of 10, what was your score for the team performance? How well the team played?
I mean, I think you guys gave 3, but I'm not going to be that generous. I'm going to say a 2.
2. Well, funnily enough, no, we actually said I gave 2. Jim followed with 2. Tom followed with 2, and Luke went with 2. So we all went with 2s, and
Oh, right. Okay.
that was probably for finding the way down to London.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, like I said, with the man of the match, we all went different. Where were you thinking? And this isn't man of the match from both teams. This is just man of the match from for a Leicester player. Where do you sit with your man of the match?
I mean, you could say. I mean, Skip played all right in the first half. What's his name? JJ scored that nice goal, and we've come to expect it of him. I think in terms of work rate, although his primary job he can't do, I think very difficult. But I'm going to say Mavididi, and I don't think he deserves that. But I can't really say that anybody else.
Exactly. No, that's the position.
The whole game.
We were all in. I have to say, well done to Wolves. They were 2-0 down to Brentford. They've come back to 2-2.
Shame we can't show that kind of fight.
Well, exactly. That's the fight that those teams have got. Oxford have got it. Wolves have got it. Have Leicester got it? Have we? Fuck. Now, I actually agreed with you. I went for Mavididi. Not because he had an amazing game or anything like that, but he was getting involved. And look, it's all about football. It's all about opinions. I can't believe we've actually agreed on something again. But there we go. I went for Mavididi. Jim went for James. Tom went for Skip.
Yep.
Now, Luke. Now, please don't swear. We are live on Channel 4, everybody. Please don't swear. Luke went for Chowdhury.
Well, again,
I don't get it. I respect his opinion. I mean, it's all about opinions, but I don't get that. In fairness,
I personally wouldn't have given it Chowdhury, but again, if you take the amount of if you think about the amount of abuse that fans have been giving Chowdhury, when really, why is it our fans that give him that amount of abuse? Why is it when he goes to another team, he's he's the fans' favourite? What is it about this club? I thought he worked hard. I don't really think he did too much wrong. I don't think he did anything wonderful, so I wouldn't have given him man of the match. But again, you can make a case for all the 4 that
you can make a case for all of them. Well, this is how it went from Alan, who was at the match. He gave the man of the match to Jordan James, which I can see the argument there, and he gave 3 for the team performance, which we all said at the time we thought was a little bit generous, but 2, 3, you can see where it's gone on that. So the interesting thing was, if you go onto the BBC website and go and follow the game, when they do the report at the end, they give all the fans the chance to vote for a point score for all the players of their own team. The man of the match was actually gone for the whole game to Edwards from QPR. He got 8.38. Their worst player, according to their own fans, was Sato, who got 6.19. Okay, this was their fans. So 6.19 was their worst player. Our best player got 4.32. And that was James.
Well, that says everything, doesn't it? That says everything.
Yeah. Mavadidi was second, Skip third, Thomas fourth on that one. Right. We'll wind it down a little bit now. But look, everybody knows I used to do a thing on here called Donkey of the Week. As in who was the worst Leicester player on the pitch. I don't do that now. I now do the ham sandwich of the week, and you'll see why when you see the graphic come up in a minute. But this time I put it out to a vote for people to vote on after the match on YouTube. So I went with their decision. But let me ask you, Clibbo, who was there a ham sandwich of the match for you?
Yeah. I don't think it takes a genius to work out who my ham sandwich of the match is.
Well, I'm being thick because my mind's gone blank. Help me out here.
That's Ayew. It's just a waste of space.
Sorry, of course.
At least the ones that are on your list had some involvement in the game.
Yeah.
And I think those two goals that we let in were a collective. They were a collective fuck up. I don't think any one person out of the two people that you're putting up there, which I know are Jakob and Nelson, I don't think any one of them had the sole blame for those two goals. They were both fuck ups by both of them because they weren't communicating.
Maybe I should have played a spoiler alert there for you, Clivo. You watched the watch along back on catch up, didn't you?
Well, like I said, I had it on me.
You did. Yes, indeed, you did. Yeah. So those were the three. I went for Gary Rowett because of the reason that you just said, picking Ayew. Nelson, obviously, fault for two of the goals. And then everybody else was suggesting I put Jakub Stelarczyk on there. Because, again, for everything that we've praised him for the last few games, that game, was he talking to Ben Nelson when that cross came in for the own goal?
I mean, the first goal, it's clear that there was no communication. Now, in that situation, you could argue that Jakob has the one to have the bigger mouth. If he sees a ball coming, he's got to react quickly.
Yeah.
But Nelson seemed to sort of just let it go, as if to say, "Well, you deal with it." So I can see both sides why people would blame Jakob, and I can see both sides why people would blame Ben. And I think the thing is, the second goal, I mean, there was a catalogue of errors leading up to that. But if you see Ben sliding in, he's in line with that goal, and his foot is completely straight. So the only direction that ball's going to go in is towards the goal. Now you could see the keeper coming out to get it. So somebody didn't say something. Again, it could have been Jakob, but again, if Nelson's full-blooded going for that, he's got to say my ball. So again, there's a communication error there. So that's why I'll say they're both equally to blame for both of those goals. I did vote for Rowett out of those three. I did vote for Rowett out of those three.
And as indeed did Ronald. He's just said Rowett for the reasons, like I say, we've all, of picking Ayew. I was surprised it was so high for Nelson. In a way, I can't blame Nelson. Look, no player goes out thinking, I want to score an own goal today. Do you know what I mean? And, when we had, do you remember when Faye scored 2 own goals against Liverpool? It wasn't his fault, according to the fans. It was Danny Ward. But then that's an agenda that they were fitting it into, because obviously we all hated Danny Ward at the time. I'm sorry. Yes, that was Danny Ward, mate, in fairness, probably more than Faze. And this was Stelarczyk, possibly more than Nelson, because as the goalkeeper, you take control. And we've praised him for that in the last couple of games, that he has been commanding his box more. But he just went back into old habits. Because if he but then again, if he shouted, was Nelson too committed to pull out of it? I don't think you can. I think you can put your body around. But interestingly, on that first goal, when it was the one that went over the top, did you see Jakob's reaction to that?
Which one?
The first goal when it went over the top.
Oh, it was. I mean,
Jakob was not happy, was it? And
no,
again,
it doesn't matter that he's not happy. But did you see Jakob shouting?
We don't. Well, I couldn't see him shouting, but I've got a small TV.
No, nor did I. So I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's a collective thing there that has to be sorted out on a training ground. There has to be somebody who makes a decision. Now, what that's telling me is the defence are not confident with each other or their goalkeeper. They're hesitant. You make a hesitant, even at this level, which is not the greatest level. You hesitate, you concede. Yeah. I mean, that, to be fair, that player had quite a bit to do to score that goal, and he took it really well. So hats off to him. He lobbed it over the keeper, ran, because that could have gone anywhere.
Yeah, no, it could. He didn't just leave it, did he? He followed it up. And Ronald, I think, he's saying about because of the penalty, but this was based, or should have been based, just on this game. Now, whether people remembering the penalty and including that in it from the from that game, I don't know. But it should have been just on this. But we might do that in every game, to be honest with you. Let the public decide. Let the public decide.
We all want a scapegoat as well, don't forget.
We do.
When emotions are running high after a match, the fans are going to pick somebody, target someone.
Totally.
I don't think in general. I think the fans love Nelson in general.
Oh yeah, I mean, like this. It says of the match, so we are looking at this one match. And as I said earlier, what I say post match on the post match reaction, or what I say on a Monday night here, completely two different things, and I've got two different attitudes. But it's not looking good, is it? I mean, we've got. I mean. We don't. Let's not. Forget we may get those 6 points back.
It's just I don't think so, and I'm not relying on that. But you see that red, you can just see we're flirting with it. You kind of, it's like, do I go left or do you remember the adventure game where they're on the vortex?
No,
you just didn't know, and it was an 80s game show. And it was all sort of high tech then, but if they stood on there, it'd go red and then they evaporate. You're just looking at that now, and it just feels like at any moment that blue is going to go to red. Can't believe you don't know the adventure game.
No, I'm
look it up, Chris.
I'm older.
Yeah, I know, but this is 70s.
Yeah, but I was into.
You would have been a hipster in the 70s, mate.
I was the big flares and platform shoes and kipper ties and into women. I was in the 70s. No, all seriousness, I will look it up because I don't remember it. In the past few weeks, like when we did drew or in those few games, results were going in our favour. Because other teams were only drawing. Yesterday, Saturday. Rovers won, and I can't believe that they won. They came back from 1-0 down. They won, and they showed some fight. West Bromwich Albion, fair play to them. They showed some fight. Oxford did, we know. All showing everything that we don't. But this is going to be the last graphic I'm going to put up. I promise you. This is the form table based on the last 6 games of us and all our relegation rivals. And I've just got to say, I was just then, quickly, and I realised I'd moved off it, just going to give you an update of its full-time Portsmouth 0, Derby County 1.
Come on.
So I can't believe I'm saying this, but thank you, Derby County. And it was Schmodix who scored, and is the guy I wanted to buy a couple of seasons ago, in the 8th minute. So that means they've still got a game in hand on the rest of us, Portsmouth. as you can see there. But they do. They are now in 20th, which they are there. So it hasn't changed the table at all. The goal difference is keeping them in 20th, but it means they've played one more game and they're still only 2 points ahead of us. But let's get back to the form table. So, like I say, this is based on the last 6 games. Doesn't include this one because obviously I did this earlier and Portsmouth have only just finished playing, so it doesn't include that game. But this is the form table. So you can see where all the teams are. Leicester obviously in blue, and where all the other teams are around us in the form table. Sheffield Wednesday, not surprisingly, in 23rd. Portsmouth, that won't have changed, to be honest with you, because, like I said, it was 1-0 win. So they will, that's only 5 games for Portsmouth. That probably won't have moved them at all, again, because of goal difference. They'd be on -2. Bristol are still on -5. Leicester, believe it or not, in 19th on recent form. West Brom, 17th. Blackburn, 15th. Charlton 10, and look at Oxford. Oxford 7th place in the form table on the last 6 games. I mean, I don't want to do it, but I'm sorry, Clibbo, I'm going to have to do it.
We're doomed. We're doomed. We're doomed.
Yeah, I agree. If I see 3 wins out the next 3 games, I might change my mind.
Yeah. I know,
but I still think we need top 6 form to stay up. As simple as that. And the players now, hopefully, we're at that point where they go, shit. You have to hope.
We need 2 teams to be worse than us because look, Wednesday are down. We know that. That's all confirmed. So we need 2 teams to be worse than us to go down. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's only 1 team worse than us, and that's Portsmouth.
I can see it being Portsmouth. I think Blackburn will be all right. I think West Brom will be okay. I think Portsmouth are the ones that are going to suffer if we don't.
So let me ask you this then. Because look, I'm going to say, look, I've just said Sheffield Wednesday are down. I am going to say that it could be the bottom 3 could be Sheffield United. Sorry, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday. Unfortunately, Leicester City in 23rd, and possibly Portsmouth in 22nd. Those are the 3 I've got, I think, as how it will end. Your bottom 3, well, bottom 2, because we know Sheffield Wednesday are there.
I've got it exactly the same.
Yeah. I just, having watched the other teams the other night, I'm thinking they may have been thinking that about us when we got that win over Bristol. Who knows? Clibbo, thank you very, very much, sir, for stepping in at the last minute and helping out and keeping your language to a minimum.
Apologies for my language, and obviously I'm not here to offend anyone. I was just giving my opinions, and again, I respect everyone's right to go and protest.
And that's why we have. And I'm pleased that they're doing this now with the systems that I use, where they have the comments actually show up live on stage. Occasionally, 1 or 2 of them slip through that shouldn't. But it's everybody's got an opinion, and it gives it a chance. Even people that are on Twitch that are trying to buy your followers, even they're entitled to an opinion. And what I love about that Twitch is that I'll go on in a minute and report him. And he'll get kicked off Twitch. But thanks very much, mate. Thanks for doing that. You enjoy your 5 minutes while you're still on the platform. I will see you on Friday when we'll be talking Watford. God help us, that's all I can say. League One, here we come. Clibbo, thank you very much. Everybody else that's been in the chat, thank you. Please do the normal stuff. Like it, share the video, subscribe if you're new. And don't forget as well, if you're on your mobile when we finish the show, please go back on and hype it. It really does mean a lot. And we'll be back tomorrow with Fox's Forum. We will see you then. And take care and thank you. And I say, once again, Clibbo, thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Adios.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.